I am a boring critic, and I am far more critical than you. And today, I am here to present the idea of New Historicism as a literary criticism. In fact, New Historicism is probably the most important literary criticism in that it is most critical over all other criticisms who are in fact less critical than New Historicism because they are not historical in their criticisms, which is the only way things can matter because of historical context. After all, everyone knows that context within context is the most important context of all. For example, in Heart of Darkness, the context of Joseph Conrad's context, when speaking about Marlowe's context and thought of Kurtz's context, in the context of the book, is in fact the most important context that I think, as a humble, lowly critic, can ever be presented to the world as a whole. New Historicism revolves around the idea that everything historical is new and important, which is simply ironic because everybody knows that the word new was coined hundreds of years ago, making it thereby not new, because nothing that is new, and because new is an old word is in fact old. And so New Historicism itself revolves around the idea that everything is old. But we focus specifically on crucial events, how they shape the literary contrast and context and new specificness of each and every work, and how it affects the reader, whether it be their time period or the period in the book, and every period is specified. As I'm sure you agree, this is the most important criticism of all, because I say so.
New Historicism can be applied to a familiar fairy tale in which a girl works very hard and ends up with a prince for a husband. People generally imagine Cinderella taking place around the late 1700s, and life, especially for those of less riches, was difficult. And, as in the Great Depression, when people would escape their dreary lives and attend the cinema, people would tell stories of lucky girls who won an easy way out.
Thank you, that will be all. No, I lied. Come hither. Yes, madam. That will be all.
More recently, however, readers are beginning to look at the story a little differently and are portraying Cinderella in a different light, this time around showing her as a less passive and more empowered female.
I like the way you move.
This literary criticism technique can be applied to Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Allow us to present a handful of elements from the novel with two contrasting critiques from two different time periods.
He's led such a successful life. He really was determined in his values, and he got what he wanted. He got that marvelous little ivory statue head there, and he has a fabulous connection. It's very unfortunate, this whole circumstance in the Congo really, depleted his view.
Such a pity.
Such a pity. Such a pity. Look at him. He's so sickeningly greedy. Think of all the things he did to those poor people, and he has this collection of heads on his wall, and it's just disgusting. It's atrocious, and I'm ashamed. Aren't you? It's just... How can we think that God invented such a person? I mean, he's so horrific.
What is that thing?
It's atrocious!
Good God! It completely scandalized.
Oh, it has no personal hygiene. Look at it scratch that fur. Do you think it grew without his hair or its part of an...
Oh my God! What God would allow such things to exist? Wow, she's so interesting. Look at her.
So unique. I mean, oh, look at the way her body moves. She's really well into it. I bet she's a dancer.
This was such an informative book. I would never have known what was going on in the Congo without it. Thank you, Joseph Conrad.
This was such a great work of literature. I'm so glad I read it in high school. It'll really come in handy on the AP exam when they ask me a question about natives and native women and ivory.
So in conclusion, conclusion, let me just say that you should keep your new things old and your old things new, and all your context within the context of the other person's contextual context. And, as I'm sure you've already guessed, I am on a boat!
Here we go.